All right, into trending topics we go. And what has South Africa been speaking about? Well, I suppose when you... it's quite... Oh, it's first question of the day. Right, we'll get into the trending topics shortly. Let's get into the question of the day. And basically, this is what South Africans have been speaking about anyway.
And we're asking you this morning, what are your views on the results of the local government elections 2021? South Africa has decided. So tell us what your views are on that decision at Morning Live SABC.
Right, so election results 2021, that's the big story that's come out this week, and the results are there, and now there's lots of analysis. There has been the entire week, and everybody weighing in on how the respective parties have done. And of course now it's all about the coalitions now and the negotiations that are happening behind the scenes. Who will marry who will not marry who will go together. Here we go. That is now the next story.
And it's going to be interesting going forward. And you know, at some point I wish we could actually just look at it and break it down in terms of the number of seats and tell that story, what it means in its entirety, because that's ultimately what it comes down to in these councils. So for example, if you take the city of Tshwane, I was looking at this yesterday, so the ANC has gone down from 89 seats in the city of Tshwane to 75. The DA, they had 93 seats, they're now down to 69. EFF had 23, they're now on 25. Action SA has 19. Freedom Front Plus went from 4 seats in that particular council to 17.
Wow.
ACDP had 1, they now have 2. They also a party that has shown a bit of growth, the ACDP. COPE 1 seat, Patriotic Alliance also coming in with 1 seat, AIC 1, ATM, DOP, Good, and then there's a Republican Conference and Tshwane United Independent Movement, all of those, you know, and you look at those seats, and this is the story about how many DA and ANC councillors will not be returning. You know, and this is where it gets real interesting, I suppose, for those parties in terms of making sure that you keep members on side, on board, and try from, you know, try to keep people from fighting, as it were, essentially, because it really is significant, some of the seats dropped. So that's just one council. It would be interesting to look at, you know, a more in-depth picture provincially, for example, without necessarily going into each little council.
Absolutely. I mean, that's interesting, as you're saying, breaking it down, looking at the seats now, and that's the allocation that goes in. And some of those, yeah, those councillors, as you say, they're not going back. But I mean, I don't know if you saw yesterday, and I'm trying to find that story where there was some form of report coming out from SALGA actually talking about the skills to some of the councillors that, oh, here we go, I found it, just as I'm speaking to you, that SALGA revealed 62% of councillors actually lacked the basic computer skills to perform tasks such as passing municipal budgets and these glaring deficiencies picked up during the lockdown. We know this. We know this. But so, yes, getting rid of those councillors, and let us hope that but some of them...
there's no guarantee that you're getting rid of them.
I know, but you just want to shake up. You want to shake up, because, I mean, it's unacceptable.
The threshold to entry is too low.
Yeah.
And that is something that South Africa needs to grapple with. Because you cannot expect to take someone, you know, speaking to the skills issue, someone who has no clue about
basic computer skills
or basic arithmetic, for that matter, and you expect them to run a budget of, you know, hundreds of millions of rands, and then you're surprised when they mess it up. So the skills issue, and for me, the threshold to entry needs to be addressed. And of course, this is not a quick fix. It's not something that you're going to do quickly.
Not at all.
But it's something that the nation needs to really apply its mind to. There has to be something. You know, you need to, because I know in some countries, I'm just trying to think which country it is, and do forgive us, you know, honestly, fog on the brain.
The brains
really
are
foggy.
very much so sleepy.
But, you know, you need to actually go and complete a certain course and pass it before you can actually even be eligible.
A qualification to be a counsellor.
Exactly.
You need the basic skills training. You've got to go to a college, a university, whatever it may be, a college, a course. It doesn't matter, but have those skills in place.
And that is basic.
End of story.
It's basic.
Simple.
And I'm under no illusion that, of course, does not it's not going to help us with the integrity and the morality,
but at least
the
know how to work with
ethical issues. But at least, you know, we'll know some of the basics will be in place.
I don't get it. I mean, you think of the amount of times, and I mean, just from our side, you know, in order to apply for your job, in order to, and I remember when the SABC was going through a whole transition and whatnot, we had to dig up our qualifications, degrees, exactly what it is that we have been qualified to do in order to sit and do what we are doing in the industry that we're working, having to prove ourselves over and over again. Now, if we have to do that, and we're not running ward councils, we're not dealing with massive budgets and ensuring that people are getting the basic services, if we've got to provide that, or anybody has to provide that before they get a job, how can a counsellor get away with that? I just don't understand it.
Again, it's that threshold. You don't even need any sort of schooling level to have been completed at all to become a counsellor. It's very basic in terms of, you know, just, I think it's a criminal record and being a South African citizen. It's very, very basic. There really is nothing to it, which was fine at a certain point in time where we were trying to make this transition to a democratic dispensation and trying to be all-inclusive. But clearly, these things are not working for us. So something needs to change.
Absolutely.
And that's not to say that that's going to be the silver bullet, you know, to all our problems. But if people feel there are other things that need to be done, that need to be incorporated, so be it. But I think we cannot continue and pretend that it's all right.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's carry on. Let's take a look at some of the other trending topics. And I see that the EFF presser is a big one. And doing well. I mean, just as a snapshot for how they did, I mean, they got 10.42% of the votes. They've got 982 seats, 2.4 million votes coming their way. I think the biggest win for them in terms of percentage support, as I look at it very quickly, I can see that in Mpumalanga they got 17.7% of the votes, which is great. Gauteng 11.8%, Free State 12.4%, Eastern Cape 7.8%, the Northern Cape also 10.4%. I'm not doing any comparisons, I'm just reading out this year's results. Limpopo 14.2%, the Northwest 16.5%, and then Western Cape 3.4%. So that's the result. Growth. But then the EFF presser.
Yeah, and the EFF pressers are always interesting. You know, Julius Malema's going to shoot from the hip.
Yeah.
And basically, one of the things that he said was that the elections, they weren't exciting. The campaign trail leading up to the elections, there was nothing exciting about it because the opposition was boring. It's like, you know, there was nothing to whip up the electorate to get excited about these elections. And also talking about they will not be approaching anybody. People must approach them for these coalitions. So seemingly everybody wants to be approached. I think the ANC also said they will want to be approached. So, I don't know who's going to do the tunadrang here.
So it's like they're setting up dating desks and you've got to move between the desks, but nobody wants to move and go speak to the other one.
I just wonder who that person is who's going to go around from, you know, one party to the next, or which party that's going to be. But it's going to be interesting, and
So he coming out with a couple of things. I mean, I'm just reading what's making them trend and coming out. So here saying that one of the things Malema was saying at the press conference, the DA hates us for the land, Freedom Front hates us for the land because they want white minorities to keep on holding on to the land, and we are saying no, we are not going to agree. So that's one of the statements that came out. Another one, history is amending the Constitution. We are amending the Constitution using this election outcome to try try and amend the Constitution. That is historic. That is politics, by the way. Then they also weighed in on the situation in Eswatini and talking to, giving deadlines and when they are going to go in and sort of try and sort out the situation. But anyway, so lots being discussed yesterday, and that's a big, big trending topic.
And finally, Diwali.
Yeah.
Happy Diwali.
Oh, gosh,
to
yes.
all who are celebrating the Festival of Lights, of course,
yes.
For those of the Hindu faith.
Absolutely. So Diwali, the 4th of November, that was yesterday. So very happy Diwali to you, and yeah, good wishes and prosperity, as we say. That was a big one, and usually there's lots of fireworks and celebrations taking place. I didn't hear too many
heard them
last night.
I did.
It was really thundering and lightning in our area, so there was a bit of rain taking place, but I mean, no doubt it was celebrated, and as much as possible. So
indeed,
there we go. Those are the trending topics that we've got for you, and we're really looking forward to some of your responses to our question of the day.
Hold on, just a quick one.
Yeah, go for it.
So, we were talking about the whole issue of councillors. Linda, our bookie out in Cape Town, one of our colleagues, says, our councillor refuses to have social media like Facebook and WhatsApp. So how does she reach the community?
What?
How does she even know what ails the constituents she's supposed to work for if she isn't even in touch with them on the very social platforms that they live on? And that's exactly what we are talking about. But of course, you'll be told that that's not, part of the job description. They don't feature in the key performance areas that need to be ticked off. So this is why I say we need to have more discussions in this country. Just incidentally, you think about things like the social relief of distress grant, as I digress from the election somewhat, and people have been so dependent, the sort of messages, the number of messages we get.
Desperation. Yeah.
People really desperate for that money, given the devastation that was visited on South Africans by COVID-19, and of course an ever-increasing unemployment rate. So people really struggling to keep it together, very dependent on this. Now, government and cabinet apparently is going to get together to decide on another form of grant moving forward, because I think the social relief of distress grant will run until April next year, somewhere there. And after that, the cabinet is going to decide on some grant that is modeled on something that they do in Brazil. Also something it's called, I'll go and read on it. I was just not prepared to talk about it. It's just come to me now, just talking about things that we really need to get South Africans engaged on. So this grant, as I understand, will then go to the head of the family. So you would have one grant per family.
So if you have a 12-year-old who is the head of a family?
It's problematic, because we haven't even gotten to the point of defining what a family is. What is a family? When you talk about the grant will be paid to the head of the family, what's a family?
So
before we
decide
who is
someone there, so that is now what they.
But it's just
it's something we're going to tackle next week, I think.
I'm going to try and put this on the table, because I think the 9th of November is when cabinet is to sit on this. As I understand.
That's around.
And if I'm wrong, if the ministers are watching, and if you'd like to come in on this and correct me, I read this somewhere, but of course it's all election fever. So if you want to come and correct us, but I think it's something that needs to be discussed. But the point is, we need to stop, just sitting and have things thrown at us. We need to participate actively.
All right, that's quite a bombshell you just dropped there. Okay, well, if you know anything about it, or if you please get hold of us somehow. You've got our numbers, or just get hold of us. We'd love to hear.
We'll definitely put it on for Monday. Something to discuss.
Definitely. All right, let's take a break.